Hello and welcome everybody. I want to welcome everyone to Word Intermediate, hosted by Learnit. This is Fast Kareem, and in this session we're here to talk about Microsoft Word, but more of intermediate topics. And what I mean by that is I have 7 different lessons that I want to go through today to cover these intermediate topics. Let me go ahead and show you what's in store for you today in this e-learning that you're taking. We're going to start out with Module 3, since this is Word Intermediate, and Word Introduction actually covers Module 1 and 2. In Lesson 1, we start out using tables and charts in Microsoft Word or importing them from Excel. And from Lesson 2, we start learning about how to use those style sets and creating your own table styles or list styles as well, and drastically changing them using document themes. I also want to spend some time talking about adding things to your quick parts gallery so you can quickly add chunks of text across your Word documents. And since we're spending all this time creating all of these useful styles, templates, quick parts, I also want to spend some time talking about using templates in Lesson 4 so that you can resave and reuse and recycle a lot of this gorgeous documents that you're creating. In Module 4, where we start with Lesson 5, I want to start talking about how you can use Microsoft Word's page breaks and section breaks to insert columns and even link text boxes to control text flow. Now, once we dive into Lesson 7, we're going to learn how to manage long documents and simplify by creating index and table of contents, and even adding in blank or cover pages. And last but not least, we have Lesson 7, where we are going to learn about the mail merge feature to create and automatically send out draft documents with mailing lists from Excel or lists that you can automatically add into Word. A lot of good stuff in store for us today. With that being said, I'm pretty excited to get started. I do encourage you to definitely pause these videos as we talk about these topics and give these things a try. It doesn't hurt to try out this little thing I'm demonstrating and discussing. That way it can just reinforce the learning and it makes sure that you can actually do that topic or that feature that you're looking into in the video. I'm pretty excited. Hopefully you got a cup of coffee ready. Hopefully if it's not late at night. But let's get started and let's begin with Word Intermediate here, starting out with our very first lesson, where I want to dive into and discuss organizing content using tables and charts. In Lesson 1, organizing content using tables and charts, I want to go ahead and show everyone how we can use Microsoft Word to actually perform calculations and even sort table data. Now, I already have a table here inside of this Lesson 1 file. And what I want to go ahead and do is I want to use this totals row, or this totals column I should call it, and fill in a formula for each row that will go ahead and sum all the values to the left-hand side. Now, when you do have a table in Word, when you put your cursor inside of it, you're actually going to get these 2 tabs popping up called the Table Design and the Layout tab. Now, I'm going to give a click here on the Layout tab to show everybody that there's an entire command group called Data. Now, this Data command group is actually going to allow us to do calculations and formulas inside of our table cells. So if I put my cursor in here and click on the formula here, it's going to automatically find me a formula that will sum all the values to the left. And then from there, I can choose the number format that I'd like. And I can keep doing that for each one of these values. There's no autofill formula for myself. But when I click on formula this time, notice how this time it says sum above. I'm going to make sure to correct that because it's trying to help me out, thinking that I want to sum the one above, but we know that I want to sum the left. So I'm just going to fix that for myself. And we can go down this entire table, going ahead and finding out these totals and changing the number format so that it stays consistent, going down the column there for each and every one. Notice how I'm changing it to left for each and every one there, just because the AI is actually telling me to sum above, but that's not what I want. Wonderful. So now that I have this data fully filled out, what I also want to do is I'm going to highlight the very top row of my table. And I just want to make sure that when I have this table, I'm going to go to the Home tab and I'm just going to align these headers to the center of the table there. So that way we can clearly see what data goes with what piece of column and what header is related to what number. Makes it cleaner. Now, from here, I can also select the entire table and I can go to the Table Design tab and completely change the style of my table. Using some of these different style sets that I have available, I can drastically change the look and feel of my table there. Now, I also want to go ahead and point out that it's useful to know that with this tables that we have, besides being able to do formulas, we can also go ahead and sort the table data. So I'm going to go ahead and select this table. And from the Layout tab, I'm going to go back over to that good old friend of mine, the Data command group. And this time, I actually want to go ahead and use the Sort option. I want to sort not by the products, but by the totals, using the numbers in ascending order. So when I hit OK there, this is showing me the least selling product to the greatest selling product. If I wanted to change that, I can go back to the Layout tab and go to the Data command group there and change it to descending order. So as you can see, printers is our top selling product and mobile products is our least selling. All this could have been done in Excel, but it's nifty to know that we have access to it and we can do formulas and sorting of table data that's already inside of a Word document for quick and convenient access. I definitely recommend you to try this out before we move on to some more data, but using visuals, using charts. Because I also want to go ahead and spend some time talking about inserting charts into Word and how we can go ahead and modify the chart just like we modified this table. Go ahead and practice using tables for a bit. Make sure to practice doing calculations. Make sure to practice controlling the cell layout. And make sure to practice sorting before coming back and moving on to charts there. In addition to using tables to display data in Word documents, something that people like to do is use visuals, charts. And it's actually rather easy to go ahead and insert an illustration into your Word documents like a chart. Because in the Insert tab, you actually have a Charts button, and that's what I have the screenshot of here in the Word document. And if I give that a click, the chart option there, it's actually going to open up the Insert Chart dialog box. to where I can browse through the list of all of Microsoft Word's available charts. I even can access my templates if I have any saved. And once I actually find the type of chart style that I'm okay with, I can browse through the different styles I want for the chart. Maybe a stacked bar, 100% stacked bar, a 3D cluster bar, a 3D stacked bar, 3D 100% stacked bar, but I'm just going to go with the original clustered bar and hit OK. Essentially what this does is it opens up a little tiny spreadsheet for us to add our data into, for us to display the chart. So now we can actually copy and paste our categories into the category cells, and they automatically will line up and display themselves in the chart. I can also do that for my series. And if I need to add the actual numbers in, I can just go ahead and copy them and paste them into the data set there. Now, when I close this, you're going to notice that the chart now has all the data Now keep in mind though that when you have a chart in Word, you do get a lot of these options that pop up to edit and format the chart when you have the chart selected. So if you need to remove things like these grid lines, you can actually go to this plus sign and remove the grid lines element off of the chart. If you want to move the legend over a bit, you can move it over to the right-hand side as well. Or if there isn't a title, you can move it to the top. But I already have a title there, so I'm just going to move it over to maybe the left-hand side or the right. Looks like we have a lot of space there. I can also add things known as data labels, specifying the number for each bar, and then I can just go ahead and get rid of the axis numbers and hit delete, kind of making it a little bit cleaner. I can also control how this chart interacts with the text in the image. I'm going to go ahead and move the text above and below the chart by moving it and choosing the top-bottom layout option. That way, if I needed to, I can go ahead I'm going to call this product sales. Just make it into a title there. I'm just going to highlight it. And I'm just going to go ahead and make this into a title there, the product sales, and I'm going to move the chart down below. That way I can get rid of this title on the chart, and I can move the legend to the top where everyone can see it nicely. There we go, product sales. Here, I'll also go ahead and use the font command group to center that there. And I'll make it bold for ourselves. Lovely. Now, one final thing that I want to talk about, whether it's a chart or a table, and that's going ahead and inserting data from Excel into Word. That's also pretty simple to do. So if you do have the data, the table, the chart already in Excel, like I do here, you can very well right-click and copy the data or the chart. And I just want to point out that with Word's paste options from the Home tab, you actually can choose if you want to keep the source formatting, if you want to use the destination style, you want to link and keep the source formatting, you want to use the destination style, or even just use a photo of the table. Here, let me scroll down a bit so we can see it actually. There we go. Here, I'll go ahead and insert a picture. Sometimes people do this, they'll insert a picture of the document or of the table or of the chart into the Word document for themselves. Just a picture floating around here that I'm moving around. Let me change this layout option to square, so that way I can move the text nice and square next to it. There we go. So, to summarize, lesson 1 is a pretty nifty lesson. It teaches us how to go ahead and sort table data, do table calculations, and insert charts, whether that's directly from Word or Microsoft Excel. I do recommend you to pause this video before moving forward and playing around with the charts option in Word, seeing if you can add table data into a chart, or if most of your data is already in Excel, try playing around with the copy and paste feature of pasting Excel charts and tables into Word. Don't forget to come back though. See you soon. In Lesson 2, Customizing Formats Using Styles and Themes, I want to spend time showing us how we can save a bunch of time formatting when we use text styles from the Home tab. So inside the Home tab here, we actually have an entire command group designed to quickly help us apply styles to our document. The Styles command group. Now, a lot of times people don't like the default built-in ones, so what they do is they create their own style. By simply creating a style they choose to use within the document by using their font command group, they can change the style of the font and the size of the font. Also the coloring. And if they want, what they can do is they can actually save this style to their Word style sets. When I click on this drop-down arrow, there will be an option to create a style. And when I choose to create a style, I can base this style off of the pre-existing ones as a normal style, a heading 1, a heading 2, a title, or a heading 3. Let me go ahead and create the style. I'm going to modify. I'm going to go ahead and give this name. I'm going to go ahead and call it my custom normal style. And I'm going to modify this here. And I'm going to make sure that the style is based off of the normal style that I have, so that it doesn't show up as a heading if I apply it. And when I hit OK here, now my style sets have a new custom normal style that I've created. And if I want, I can actually go ahead and use, let's say I have some Now, if I have another word or phrase that I want to style with the same formatting, I can actually just go to my Home tab and use that style set. Extremely useful if you're doing a large document and you're modifying and editing these sentences or phrases. Using style sets would save you an immense amount of time. In addition to that, you can also go ahead and open up this special area called Apply Styles. In Apply Styles, what it essentially does is if you have a word or sentences inside of your document, the Apply Styles window will allow you to go ahead and highlight certain words, and you can select the styles that you would like to apply. So here I'm going to apply the custom normal style to that word. I can go ahead and highlight this and apply the custom normal style that I created to that word. This apply style window is extremely useful when you have a ton of editing to do at the very end of the document. So usually I save a lot of my formatting towards the end when I'm going to just sit there and apply all of my styles left and right, here and there, across the document, using this apply styles window that I like to just paste onto the side there. You don't have to, but you can have it floating. Some people prefer it floating, but I like to just have it all on the left-hand side there. I like to dock it. So once you're done using the apply styles, you don't have to have it open. You can close it. But keep in mind that this concept of using styles to format things, is actually also available for when we insert our tables. So if we have a table here that we have, I also want to point out that in the design tab of the table, you have table styles. And if you would like, you can actually go ahead and create your own new table style, just like we created our own text styles. I'm going to go ahead and call this the custom table style. And from here, I can choose how I would like my table bordering to show up, how I want the shading to show up as well. And I can choose for each row, like maybe my header row, I want to leave that one white. And I should probably do the opposite. Let me go ahead and leave my whole table. I'm going to leave it like a gray color. And then I'm going to get my header row and I'm going to leave it blue. There we go. I also want to add these cell borders around the outside, maybe even the inside border. There we go. Got some bordering around there. And let me do that for the whole table. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. And now I've actually created my own custom table style that I can change the style of this table with my company colors that I can use or my client's colors that I need. I can quickly create these style sets or these table styles to go ahead and work with them. Now, when you do use styles, the built-in ones, I do want to point out that you do get this nifty ability to head over to your design tab and adjust the theme of your document. And this will drastically change the color, the font, and the effects that you're using in your Word documents by changing the theme of the Word document. I can go ahead and change the theme to the facet theme, the gallery theme, the integral theme, or the organic theme. And you're seeing a drastic change to the colors, the fonts, and the effects to the default tables and the default style sets that you chose. Notice how it's not going to change the styles that you created. Change the colors here of this table to match the color palette of the theme that I chose. So themes can drastically change the look and feel of a document if you're not feeling the overall look of it once you're completed. If you were using styles and table styles correctly, this will make a drastic change to your document. The original document theme that every Office Word document opens up to is called the Office theme. Now keep in mind, you can also create your own themes by hitting Save Current Theme to save the colors, fonts, and effects of a document that you like. I'd definitely encourage you with Lesson 2 to at least create one text style and one table style and apply them to something. And see if you can go to your Design tab and modify the document themes after doing that. Once you've done that, go ahead and come right back so we can dive into Lesson 3, learning about inserting content using quick parts. Lesson 3, inserting content using quick parts. You might have used quick parts in Outlook. It's where you can get certain pieces of an email and save them as kind of templates that you can quickly add in to parts of your emails. Now, the same thing goes for Word documents. Maybe you have an event listing, a table that lists all your events, and you want to show this several times across your document. Or you have a bunch of resources that you want displayed at the bottom of each chapter that you want to show several times across your document. Now, if you have a chunk of text, a table, anything really in your document that you want to constantly generate and have show up in multiple areas, something that you might want to consider is saving that chunk of text as a quick part. Because inside the Insert tab of Microsoft Word, you actually have a tool called Quick Parts. Let me take a little screenshot of the command group called Text from the Insert tab. And I'm going to paste it into the Lesson 3 area here. Now this option over here, meant to be a box, this option over here is actually our Quick Parts. And if we want, we can actually go ahead and highlight chunks of text. And from the quick parts there, we can actually add things to our auto text gallery by saving the selection. I'm going to go ahead and call this one the Word demo. And I'm going to save it in the auto text gallery under General. Now I'm going to save this in the normal template so that if I open up another blank document using the normal template, I'll also have access to this quick part. Now, across my document, if I want, I can go to the quick parts area again, and under auto text, you'll actually see that new quick part that you have created that you can insert and add to various areas of your Word document. Now keep in mind, if you ever need to edit that quick part, what you can do is you can actually go over and find the building blocks organizer, and you can see and find all of those, they call them building blocks, and the categories that you've saved them in across the building blocks organizer, to where you can edit the properties if you would like, or you can go ahead and delete them if you need to. I do want to mention something. Inserting quick parts reminds me of using autocorrect, to where if you have a certain word or a certain phrase, it will automatically fill out the rest for you. Like maybe I want the word Faz to end up spelling out Faz Kareem and also list my last name. I can actually add in a autocorrect for that single word, where I can go to the File tab and head on over down to I'm going to go to More and hit Options. And from there, under Proofing, I can add autocorrect options. And anytime I see Faz, I can actually replace it with Faz Kareem, giving my first and last name, and I can add that to my dictionary. So, as I'm typing now, if I type in Faz and I put a space, I don't even need to type in the Kareem part. It will automatically get entered in for me, because inside of my File tab, under Options, I added in a autocorrect option there for Faz that I can always fix and delete if I needed to. So, inserting content using quick parts, definitely something to consider for your Word documents. You may have already been doing them within Outlook, but definitely start considering saving and reusing this. I also want to mention that this also works in other documents. If you open up a brand new document, that quick part gallery will also be available for you to add that content to those other documents that you have open. For lesson 3, I definitely recommend you to practice using a quick part and also using autocorrect from the File tab and saving a few autocorrect options and also a few quick parts to your auto text gallery. And if you need to clear out and organize things, don't forget to look at the building block organizer to clear out any irrelevant or older quick parts that you don't really use anymore. You don't want that list to get too crowded. Lesson 4, using templates to automate document formatting. To me, one of the most valuable lessons. Think about it. We've had 3 different lessons learning about creating and spending our time building things like style sets, table styles, chart templates. These are all things that you're building and you would hopefully want to reuse. Maybe they have your company colors, your company styles, your company font. And yes, you can constantly reuse these things and redo them for every document. You can keep creating style sets, keep creating table styles. But you can also save that document as a template so that the next time around, you can start from that base that you've created with those style sets that you already have. That way, if you're building a handout, a newsletter every month, you can constantly use the same formatting and keep it consistent without spending too much time building the document, because a lot of these things were already built ahead of time. So, if you have a ton of styles that you've created, and you're like, how can I better use these styles? A good way to do that is to save the document as a template. Now, from the File tab here, I also want to point out that under Open, these are considered files that we have. But under Home or under New, you actually have access to templates, which are essentially pre-formatted Word documents that are built in or you can find online if you're an Office 365 user for common tasks that you do in Word, like building resumes, calendars, maybe a cover letter of some sort, brochures of some sort, reports that you're creating. Now, these are all built-in templates that you can always browse and have access to and even use the search box. But it makes sense to do things like me and save your own personal templates so that you have access to your own list of templates that you've created for your own job roles and for your own projects and for your own reports that you do commonly. So, although these built-in templates for flyers, letters, education, cover letters, holidays are great, and I just want you to know they're available, I also want you to know that saving the documents you create as templates so that you can reuse them, maybe it's a newsletter that you're doing, a blog post that you're creating, is also something ideal. So, I also want to mention to save a document, you can use the F12 key on your keyboard. If you're on a laptop, you might have to hold F and N to trigger the shortcut. But this will save you the steps from going to the File tab and clicking on Save As and hitting Browse and selecting a location on your computer. It's the same thing as hitting F12 plus F and N if you're on a laptop. So if I hit F12 here, the Save As box pops up. And I just want to point out that instead of saving this as a Word document, what I'd like to do, everybody, is I'd like to go ahead and switch this to a Word template. DOTX. And when I do that, when I automatically switch it to a Word template, this would have said Excel template or PowerPoint template. it's going to automatically change the location to this area called custom office templates. It will automatically change the location. I'll say that again. Now, if you change the location to something else, you won't be able to use your template inside of the new area. It won't be able to find it. Very common problem that people do when creating templates. So I'm going to make sure to not change the location of this area, but I'm just going to give it a proper name. I'm going to call it the word intermediate template. And when I go ahead and hit save here, remember, I'm not changing the location of this. Now, when I go over to my File tab, and I go over to my new, under Personal, I'll actually see the word intermediate template that I can pin to the very top here. So now, every time I go over to the File tab and I hit New, I will always be able to use this word template as a nice starting base with my style sets that I've created and saved within the document. So, keep in mind, with templates, I also want you to know that if you have a chart and you really like the styling and the formatting that someone did, they removed the grid lines, they put the legend to the top, they added data labels, same thing. Save it as a template. If you right-click a chart, the option to save as a template shows up. You don't even have to be the person that made the chart. And when you hit save as template, this time the chart template's going to automatically be saved in the charts folder, which again, you don't want to change the location. And when you hit save, I'm going to replace it. That's fine. When you hit save, you'll now have access to that chart template inside of your templates area of charts that we learned about in lesson 1. There's my chart template there. So, as you can see, make this a little smaller there, using chart templates, using Word document templates, very similar. Just remember to always save it in the appropriate location. Otherwise, you will not be able to go ahead and access that template from the Insert tab for your charts or from the File tab under New for the documents themselves. I definitely recommend you to try this out. Try saving a document template and also saving a chart template before moving on to the next lesson that we have, which is lesson 5, controlling the flow of a document. Pause the video, practice using templates. Don't forget to come back and definitely try out that shortcut to save the document. Now remember, I keep saying hold F and N if you're on a laptop. Some laptops require you to hold the second function of the top F keys to trigger shortcuts, while others do not. So if you're not one of the users that need F and N, so be it, that's fine. I just want to list it there for some of us that might need to hit that, or otherwise the shortcut won't pop up the save as box like mine does here. Lesson 5, controlling the flow of a document, is also a useful one. I want to teach you how we can control paragraph flows, page flowing, and how we can split the page into multiple columns and go back into 1 column to 2 columns to 3 columns using a special tool known as our Pilcrow tool. Now, something that I use a lot when controlling document formatting is the Paragraph Command Group's Pilcrow tool. It's actually that backwards P there, that little symbol there that when you turn on will show you all the invisible markers all the spaces, the enters, and all the breaks that you have for your pages and the sections of the page. And something that I've been doing going across each lesson, at the end of each lesson, is I insert a page break. That lets me know that the page has ended and it moves on to the next page. And it does that for each and every single one that I've done. I've inserted a page break to move on to the next page instead of hitting enter several times. Now in lesson 5 here, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my Pilcrow just for a second. I'm going to turn off my Pilcrow here. And I'm going to add in a paragraph. I'm going to add in one paragraph with about 3 sentences here. And if you want, you can actually section off your document by inserting either a page break, which will break off the document into an entirely new page like I've currently been doing, or under the layout, you have an entire breaks section. And what you can do is you can do something called a section break. And a section break will break off the section that starts on the same page, and we can apply different settings to this section of the document, like adding in multiple columns. Cool, so I did a continuous section break right around here. So if I turn on my Home tab's Pilcrow, you're going to see that the section break is now turned on and that this is a new section here that I have available. In this section, I can actually go to the layout and control to have 2 columns in the section. And you're going to notice that the ruler in Microsoft Word now shows that you have 2 columns within this document here. So if I type in, I'm going to do random 1 paragraph and 3 sentences there. You're going to see that it shows up in 1 column. And if I need to, I can actually move on to the next column in the Word document by simply inserting another type of break. Now I'm going to go ahead and insert a break here. And this break that I'm going to insert is a column break, which is simply going to go ahead, just like my little icon shows, it's going to get the cursor and it's going to move it and it's going to start it at the new column, which is what the ruler shows here. So now if I type in equal here, rand, 1 paragraph, 3 sentences each, I'll see that the second column has moved over to this side of the document. And then this startles people. They're like, oh no, the rest of my document's broken. That's not the case. It's just that we also now have to go back to the breaks and do another section break. But this time, for this new section that we have, we're going to go ahead and change it back to 1 column so that it goes back to the original. Now, when I turn on my Pilcrow, remember my Pilcrow here, it's actually showing me all of these things that I've created. I have a section break over here where I broke the section off from 1 column to 2 columns. And then I did a column break over here to add the text here. And then I did another section break over here to go back to 1 column for this new section that I have. Understanding and learning how to control document flow with breaks is tremendously useful for editing instead of hitting enter, 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 enter to move over to the next column. Because then if you start adding in text, everything shifts. Definitely give this a try. I definitely recommend trying to build a document with 1 column and then doing a section break and then installing 2 columns and then going ahead and do a column break and then going ahead and doing a section break and then going back to 1 columns. These are kind of like the steps you're doing as you're building it. Very interesting how it's done, but not too bad, not too bad. Let me go ahead and show you one more thing here. I'm going to turn off my Pilcrow. Because a lot of times people also insert text boxes into their documents. Where you have a text box, maybe multiple text boxes into the document as well. Now, if a text box is actually too small, you can actually have the text bleed into another text box or overflow into another text box on another part or another page of the document even. So if I go ahead and make this text box bigger, you can see that all the text is in there, but if I make it small, you can't see all the text. But when you have a text box selected, you can actually go over to the Shape Format tab that pops up. This will only be there when you have the text box selected. And there's an actual command group called text that allows you to create a link. And if you click on Create Link, a little bucket will appear. And if you put the bucket on another text box, it will allow you to overflow the text into that other text box. I do want to remind everybody that both text boxes need to be present before clicking on Create Link, and all the text must be in the first text box. It will do the overflowing for you once you click. Now, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make this one just a little bit longer to show you that both of these texts kind of flow into each other. Videos provide a powerful way to help you prove your point when you click on online videos. Now, I don't want you to think that this only works with 2 text boxes. You know, if you had several text boxes that you've actually inserted, I'm just going to hit Control D to copy these. You can actually link all of these text boxes together. Let me add in a random paragraph with 5 sentences here. And if I want, I can go ahead and select Create Link from the Shape Format tab, and I can link it to this text box, and I can link this one to this text box, and I can link this one to this text box. And now it's linking all the text across these text boxes. That can actually be moved around across your document. I don't want you to think they have to stay here. So controlling document flow is actually pretty clever in Word, and there's quite a lot of ways to do it, using page breaks, section breaks, column breaks, and even text boxes with links connected to them. These are all very powerful ways to control the flow of a document. And that's what Lesson 5 is all about, controlling the flow of a document. I definitely recommend you to pause this video. This is a very important lesson, and practice controlling a flow of a document by doing these things, by splitting off into multiple columns, by going back into one column at the very end. I do want to make sure that you do know that inside of Word, the ruler is actually not there at default. You actually have to turn it on. And we learned that in Lesson 1 of Word Introduction, I believe. So if you weren't in that session and you didn't get to watch it, and you're like, where is my ruler? I can't tell where my column is. Just turn it on from the View tab before you do your exercises so you can see that there, and it'll be on for all of your documents. I don't want you to think the ruler will only turn on for just that document. The ruler will turn on for all documents until you decide to turn the ruler off for the top and the left-hand side of Microsoft Word there, which is known as an application level setting. Go ahead and give this a practice. We still have 2 more lessons though. We have simplifying and managing long documents coming up next, how we can insert blank pages, add watermarks to them, add a cover page, insert indexes, insert table of contents, and things of that nature from our References tab. A lot of good stuff in Lesson 6. Practice this, pause the video, and come back. All right. Lesson 6. Simplify and managing long documents. I want to start off this lesson by reminding everybody that in Lesson 1 of Word Introduction, we learned about this very magical area called the navigation pane. And if you are actually using styles and heading 1s and heading 2s and heading 3s, your headings will actually pop up for you to navigate your document. You can actually browse through the document by clicking these. Now, we actually learned that the navigation pane, although is useful, is not on by default. We learned that in lesson 1, this has to be turned on from the View tab. Just like our ruler. Now, the navigation pane allows us to, well, navigate the document, and we can also pick up and move things around across the document. We can move chunks of the document around. Very useful when you need to control the flow or move things around and you realize things are in the wrong order. However, if you email this document to someone, and if they don't have this navigation pane on, they won't see this. So yes, these headings are useful, but they don't get this beautiful table of contents that us, because we've taken this training, have. Now, you can tell the person about the navigation pane, tell them to turn it on, or you can actually insert a table of contents using the headings that you've created across the document. So when you're actually going to the Home tab and you're applying these headings to the very top of your paragraphs, whether it's a heading 1, a heading 2, or a heading 3, you're actually building an area to where you can reference those headings, references, with the table of contents. And typically when I'm building these larger documents at the very top of the document here, just at the very top, I like to go ahead and insert a table of contents. So if you have these headings all listed, I'm going to go to my references here, and I'm going to select table of contents. I also want to point out that there's several different styles that are built in for the table of contents. And if you want, you can browse over here and have custom tables of contents and even find some from office.com if you're an Office 365 user. I'm just going to use the basic one here, the automatic table, the built-in one, to add in my contents there for myself. There's my contents. Cool. So I do want to point out something that I do encourage you to do with your table of contents. Let me try to pop out of here. Is to also point out that if you make changes to the document, you have to update the table. If you add extra headings across the document, maybe a lesson 1.1 in here, and you go into here and let's say I add in lesson 1.1, I'm going to do that actually. Not inside the table, but somewhere outside the table. Let's do it right here. Lesson 1.1. If I highlight this and I make this into a heading, you see it shows up here right away. It'll show up right away. But if I go to my table, I don't have lesson 1.1 because I have to hit update table, and I'm going to update the entire table every time I do that. Cool. Now I have contents in lesson 1.1 because I also made the contents. What I did is also made a contents, a heading one, just to make it easily findable. Yeah. So updating the table is something very important that I want you to know about when you do have a table of contents in there. Let me go ahead and delete lesson 1.1 here because that is not one of our lessons. Cool. There's my table of contents. Here, I'm going to put this on its own page. I'm going to insert a page break here. Control Z. Let me do it outside the table. Here, at the very start of this line, a page break. Just so my table of contents is on its own page. Yeah. If I go to my pages list here, I'll see that everything is on its own page. Each and every lesson. And every lesson starts at the top of the page. So, in lesson 6, let me click on here. In summary, I just want to point out when controlling these very large documents, you have a references area to where you can insert a table of contents there. Also, if you're going across your document and you're noticing that certain words you want to, certain vocabularies you want to put in an index at the end, you can also go across your document. Instead of using headings and styles, you can mark things as entries for your index. I'm going to hit mark entry here for the organizing. And I'm just going to make it a main entry. I'm going to call it organizing. And I'm not going to cross-reference it or anything. I'm just going to hit mark. Here, I'll hit mark all. Anytime it sees organizing, it's going to mark that as an index. And if I want, I can go ahead and insert an index here. I'm just going to put it very close to this table of contents here. And I'll hit OK. And it indexes all the words or phrases and what pages they've shown up on. In case you have a large document and you want to document how many times an acronym or something shows up on a page and where they show up on the page, or a definition of a term. So we have this ability to, in our references area, not only, I'm going to go to lesson 6 here, insert a table of contents like I just did there, but we also have the ability to go ahead and mark up entries, mark up certain words or phrases in the document. And then from there, we can go ahead and choose to create an index. Now, if you are having a large document, I also want to mention that there is something you can insert called a cover page. And this cover page will kind of give it a finished touch to the document there, if you would like, from the Insert tab. Let's go ahead and add a document title page there at the very front. And I'm just going to go ahead and call this Word Intermediate. Just filling out the title, the cover page that I put in there. If I go to the pages there, I'll see that I have a new page 0, the cover page. And then my table of contents starts. And then I go through all my headings. Definitely helping me control this rather large document that I have here. I do definitely recommend with lesson 6, giving each of these things a try. First, adding the table of contents to the very top of the document, and then going around and marking up certain things as entries for your index. Maybe things that you want to remember, and then inserting an index maybe at the bottom of the document, or maybe right next to the table of contents. I also recommend, once you've done these two things, to add a cover page to this document and start filling in the fields of the cover page like I did there. Don't forget to come back though, because when we come back, our final lesson is actually going to be on the mail merge feature, where we can use the mail merge wizard to automatically draft up emails to send out to a list of people using an Excel spreadsheet. Pretty powerful. Definitely practice this, but don't forget to come back for lesson 7, which is our final lesson for Word Intermediate. Lesson 7, using the mail merge to create letters, envelopes, and labels, is a great way to send out a bunch of messages or emails to a large group of people while having customizations with names, addresses, and certain fields that you want to customize with a list of info that you want to add to those fields. I actually have a nice little example files here listed inside of our lessons Word Intermediate file, an Excel file that we can use that actually lists all of the people we want to send this letter to. It has their address, their first name, their last name, city, and state. And I also have this letter that I want to send to each one of these individuals. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to use mail merge to go ahead and do that. So let me go ahead and open up this letter here that I have. I'm going to open it up from my desktop here, and I'm going to start using this letter to create a mail merge to send it out to about 10 to 15 people with a customized little snippet with their name and address in there. I'm going to go over to my mailings tab here. And from the mailings tab, I have an option to start mail merge. And in the mailings tab, there's actually something called the step-by-step mail merge widget wizard, which will actually allow you to create a mail merge with about 6 steps that you can follow. I'm going to go ahead and select that I want to do a mail merge for letters here. Instead of an email messages, envelopes, labels, or directories, I'm going to build a letter since that's what I have. And here it's asking me if I want to start with this current document that I'm using, start from a template that I have saved, or start from an existing document that I can select. I'm just going to use this document, the current document, since I already have it open, and I'm going to select the recipients for step 2. I can use an existing list. I can use my Outlook contacts. I can even type in my own list, but I already have one available for Microsoft Excel. So I'm just going to select and hit browse and find that Excel file with the mailing list that I have. It found the sheet with the table in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now it's automatically chose to import these values, and I can choose to skip values from this list if I'd like to. I can also sort, filter, and find duplicates from this list to not send out multiple letters to the same user. Now, when I hit OK here, it's imported the list here, and I can go ahead and start writing my letter. Now, from there, I can start inserting these certain fields, like my address block field. And I can choose how the address blocks will show up. Here, I'll keep it a little bit. I'll keep it first name, last name basis. And I can browse through and see how each one of these will actually show up in the address block. If there's any incorrect fields that weren't matching and lining up with this address block, I can go ahead and match the fields from my columns in the spreadsheet to the fields that I need to match for the address block. Once I hit OK, I'll add in the address block field, and then I can go ahead and add in a greeting line field as well a little bit below. I'm going to hit OK here. Now, once you go ahead and hit preview your letters, it'll actually show you a preview of all 8 letters, that are all the mailing list letters that you've created, to see how it will look in the final draft. I can see I have too many spaces here. I can choose to edit each one of these individual pages from here. I can also go ahead and complete the merge. And if I want, I can edit each individual letter or print them out from here. If I hit edit individual letter, I can choose if I want to merge the records or if I want to start from the current record. Now I have the ability to edit each and every letter that I created with everyone's address and name at the top using the mail merge feature. Keep in mind, this also works for emails. This also works for envelopes and labels that you're creating. It's just that in the mailings option, for the mail merge, you're just going to choose one of these other options inside the wizard for email messages, envelopes, or labels. Essentially, it's a 6-step wizard allowing us to build a bunch of documents, a bunch of letters, a bunch of emails to a group of people inside of a list or a list that you create inside of Word. Definitely practice this with those 2 files I give you inside the Lesson 7 heading, and see if you can do a mail merge with those 8 recipients there And also see if you can edit each one or save them all for a print. Congratulations. I want you to congratulate yourself. Give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back. You have just completed Word 2016 and you've finished Module 3, where we learned about building tables and charts, using styles for tables and text, and even using quick parts in creating document templates. And after Lesson 3, we also dived into Module 4, learning the control of the flow of a document using section breaks, page breaks, and text boxes that we can link. And in Lesson 7, we learned about index and table of contents. And finally, we learned about that mail merge feature that we can use to automatically create letters, envelopes, and labels from an Excel spreadsheet. I hope this material was useful. I hope you learned a ton and had fun doing it. I'm looking forward to hearing inside the comments what are your top 3 takeaways from Word Intermediate, if you can summarize it into 3 topics that you liked the most. Let me know inside the comments there. I'm curious to hear what you thought. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure sharing my knowledge on Word with you. Again, my name is Faz Kareem. I'm with Learnit, where we provide flexible training solutions. Make sure to take a look at our website. Make sure to take a look at our other courses that we have to offer too. And have a great day.